Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist Podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello, welcome once again, the Simulationist Podcast. This is iteration 94, recorded on the 22nd of June, 2014. And my name is Josh Trelevin, and with me, as always, my illustrious co-host, Ryan Kirkby.
Illustrious? I prefer descriptive. We're not working in anything that's too illustrative. We're not working in anything that's too illustrative, but we are working in a very verbal-heavy format. So, yes.
I think illustrious has something to do with not that you illustrate things, but that you have a luster, like a glow to yourself, which...
But wouldn't that be an ill luster?
Come to think of it, that doesn't fit you either.
No. Well, I suppose I could just maneuver where I'm sitting so that
you can be in the light.
Yeah, I've got the light coming in from the window behind me. But
okay,
yes,
my not so illustrious...
descriptive co-host.
Descriptive. Yes. Okay, so hey, let me see. How are things? It's the 22nd, so it's middle of the year and the beginning of summer.
One day after both the longest day of the year. Hooray! If you celebrated that, the solstice.
Yeah.
The days are getting shorter now. Start canning goods or whatever it is you want to do in preparation for winter already.
I'm not going to do any of that. So.
Okay. Well, it also marks the day after Free RPG Day this year.
Yeah, I hope you all got out and got your free RPGs. Personally, I didn't actually make it down to the store yesterday. I wanted to, but it slipped my mind. So
I'm a bad nerd. I was not able to go either. I slept in a little later than I wanted, so I wasn't able to make it there before work. And work was very busy, so I stayed a little late. And then I'm like, there's 20 minutes left between closing and right now. Will they really have anything left? Will they really be okay with me just coming in, running in, what can I get for free, and then running away before they close? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be a last-minute Larry. Sorry if your name is actually Larry. It's not like a slight against you. It's just...
That's right, Larry. We're on to you for always showing up the last minute.
That's why they call you Last-Minute Larry. We didn't want to mention it, but it's out there now, so...
Yeah.
I technically missed it as well.
So that means, I'm going to have to be paying for my RPGs in the future, except for, of course, D&D, which is going to have a free version.
I'm getting there.
I think I'll probably end up paying for the main books anyways with D&D.
I think I'm going to be getting the main books, and I'm also very seriously still considering getting the starter box set. Only covers to level 5, only the 4 main classes, but that adventure that starts in... Plus a set of free dice, sort of thing with that all in there. I think that's worth $20. So I'll see if I got spare cash jingling around, burning a hole in my pocket.
Cool. Me too. Well, yeah, we'll see.
If I find a $20 bill blowing down the road when I'm going out somewhere, I'm taking that as a sign.
Yeah. Cool.
I'll spend $20 on the lottery tickets, and if anything wins on the lottery tickets, then I'll get the starter box set. That's how it's supposed to go? No. Oh, well. I'll play it by ear.
Good. We should go into what simulations we've been running.
Do you want to go first?
Shall I go first? I can go first. Simulations. Well, I always play Minecraft, my allotted amount, so I will mention that. Probably mainly just mining, though. So not a whole lot of building epic
and not
projects.
strip mining or anything like that, like real mining.
I've been doing a lot of because I have I have plenty of diamonds right now in my world. I have 30 diamond blocks in my chest.
You sicken me.
I know that's a lot of diamonds. I'm good for diamonds. But I just put up a new beacon. So I've been low on iron. I've been as I get more beacons, I've been putting them up in my world. And beacons they cost a lot of iron. So I've been having to do a lot of iron mining. So that's more mining near the surface, a lot of caving, which is actually, I think that's one of the main draws of Minecraft. I mean, there's so many things that you do in Minecraft, but it seems to be one of the, like, when you play Minecraft, the main thing you do is mine. And you do...
Well, that is half the name. First you mine things, and then you craft things.
And, it's funny because you don't see a lot of, like, YouTube videos of people just going through mines, even though that's sort of, like, that. It's sort of like, it's almost maze-like,
Well, I don't think that's part of, like, the spectator sport of it. Building something new and something like, oh, here's how you make, an infinite cobblestone generator.
Yeah.
That's something that very, very heavily relies on sight. But mining, and tunneling and delving like that, you kind of got to be the person doing it.
Yeah, I guess, I think so. Although it would be neat. I mean, I've seen some people attempt to do, like, entertaining content on... upload their gameplay onto YouTube about just, okay, I'm going to go on a mining adventure, and either they do a talking thing where they talk to about what's going on in their life, something like that. Sometimes they do a little gimmick where they're like, oh, I'm only allowed to mine these ores, or only allowed to use a silk touch pick, or this and that, different. So there's ways to do it, but there's not a lot of just. Because I think it would be cool, because you remember those old screensavers that have, like, the person just going through a maze? Yeah. Like, I think it came with Windows.
It wasn't very high definition graphics, but then again, it was a screensaver. It was never supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember one of the things you could do is you could configure which image. I think you could pick a floor, you could pick walls, and you could pick a ceiling.
Yes, I always remember people choosing the ugliest possible combination of graphics.
Well, it looked really bad, especially if your image was, like, stretched. Like, if it was especially wide, it would be squashed to
fit the dimensions, yeah.
So it would look weird. And like, you could put any image, so I would have, like, pictures of myself or my friends or my family.
See, that's the thing is I like do you really want to be walking through a dungeon of babyface floors? Really?
But actually, in theory, you could do that with Minecraft. You could, like, replace the textures of the stone and stuff with pictures of yourself or your family.
Then every time you're mining out, it's like, take this, how dare you do this to me? Or it's like, I feel really guilty. I mined a whole lot, and I had to smash your face so many times. I'm sorry.
Although, you know what you could do that would be fun is if, like, every block you replaced with a different Pokemon or something like that.
Unfortunately, with Pokemon, it's all spheres. You got to capture them in spheres, and you just don't have those in the game.
That's true, yeah, Pokemon. There is a Pokemon Minecraft, like there's a Pokemon mod for Minecraft that someone did, but I don't actually know if they use the ball to do the whole,
Get a modified chest, you just throw it at someone.
You'd think they would switch it to a square. That'd be kind of cool, like a Pokemon cube, catching cube. What is the ball? Do you know what the ball is called?
Pokesphere, Pokeball.
Pokeball?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be a Pokecube.
Well, that's the thing is I'm just thinking, well, if you got a cube that captures something in an extra dimensional area, all you need to do is make it open and close properly, and then if you try to get your Pokemon out the wrong way, you summon Pinhead instead.
Yeah, different dimension.
Sorry, opened it from the wrong side. Back you go. Okay, there we go. I choose you.
I've been doing lots of mining. I've also been, like, kind of searching for, trying to find a skeleton dungeon near my tree farm, because I want to find source of bones that I can turn into bone meal to bone meal my trees. So I have fertilizer. So yeah, but I have been unsuccessful so far. I found two zombie dungeons.
Why don't you just have a nice plane, and then every morning you come up and just harvest the bone that's sitting out from all the dead skeletons?
Yeah, I probably will end up doing that instead.
Or a decent generator, or not real generator, but a decent spawning area.
Yeah,
to force everyone, and that works from what I've seen very well.
Yeah, have you seen the giant towers that people have made on?
Just absolutely amazingly, just blow my computer up with their heavy usage sort of thing.
Yeah, and you watch them it's just like a waterfall of bones and gunpowder and everything else that drops off monsters.
That's kind of beautiful, I won't lie.
That's pretty cool, yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't done that yet. Maybe in the future.
I've done some nice creative work in testing it out. It seems very nice and actually not that bad for space efficiency too. I'm always big on that. Can I save the room?
Yeah. So that's my adventures in Minecraft. I did improv again today, like learning how to improv. I'm still quite bad at it, but I feel like every time I go, I learn a bit more and get a bit better.
There you go.
And so, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Hooray.
I don't know what else to say about that as far as, it is another simulation. It is that whole improv and thinking up stories. I like it a lot because it's in the moment and it's just creating stories where there weren't any stories before. And just, of course, there are always, we're immersed in stories just by living, so... Yeah. Well,
especially with the media culture that we have,
That's true, too, yeah.
And when they run out of ideas, they just put reality TV on.
Yeah. Yeah, and we were talking a bit about Whose Line Is It Anyways? Like, why isn't that still on?
It is. It's back on again.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It's over on, I think it's called the Peachtree Network now. It used to be, TSN.
Who is hosting it now?
I believe it's officially done by he sang last time? Wayne Brady.
Wayne Brady is the host.
He's not the host, but I think he's the big
Drew
name
Carey.
in getting everything back. No, they got a nice lady for that. She joins in a little bit more often than Drew Carey used to.
Yeah, well, I remember I've seen him do, he hops in every once in a while.
Yeah, well, she'll help out, if they need, a prop for it, and she'll be the extra person on that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, I see.
But they got Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles in there again.
And of course these are all new,
all new, yeah. I remember it, especially because it made me laugh so hard a couple times. It made my daughter cry. Apparently, when you're really young, 8 months old, and someone laughs really loud, that's kind of scary, and it makes you want to cry.
Yeah.
So I had to stop watching it while my daughter was awake. So yes, I remember they were new stuff. Very good stuff. A little bit more ribald, because the last time I think you saw it would have been on the APC network.
Yeah.
This one, they're a little bit more onto the cable end of things, so they can get away with a bit more.
Yeah, different language. Yeah.
Or innuendo. They can have a little bit more. And they had some pretty good fun with innuendo the last time, too.
Yeah, I remember there being innuendo. Of course, it's always the sort of thing that you can pass off as innocent, of course. So yeah, there's that. But speaking of improv, also I've been listening to, I always listen to lots of podcasts, so that's nothing new. But I've been really enjoying the Harmontown. I think I've mentioned Harmontown before, and it is definitely has adult language in it and adult subject matter. Unlike this podcast where we keep it.
We try to keep it around PG-13.
PG-13, yeah. But yeah, they.
I am prone to occasionally saying arse or its various derivatives from time to time.
Yes, that's about as far as we go on this one. But yeah, I've been listening to Harmontown, which has a little D&D segment in it every episode, and I've been falling more and more in love with this Spencer Crittenden, who is their dungeon master, and I liked him ever since I first heard their D&D, and I didn't listen to them in order, so it's like I was listening to it later on, and then I went back to the originals and sort of listened when he first joined in, because they had a podcast, where should I even start? I don't know if I need to tell this whole story. If people want to go check it out, they can. I'll try and make it brief. They had a show.
Okay.
Dan Harmon, who made Community, the TV show. He then had a live show in a comic book store in Meltdown Comics in LA. Then they started recording it as a podcast, and at some point, a few episodes into actually uploading and like having it available for the public, they asked their audience if anyone who was in the audience knew how to DM or knew more about D&D, and Spencer just popped up, his hand shot up out of the audience, and he came up on stage and just basically, he had no connection to them before that other than being a fan.
Oh my!
And then ever since then, he's been a member of the podcast and sort of their circle, whatever they're doing.
Their elite cadre.
Yeah, and he's been a pretty major and popular part of that podcast and doing playing D&D, and it's not serious D&D. I think I've talked before about how there's different levels of D&D playing. It's funny because he acts as the sort of straight man in a lot of ways. So he does do the serious we're playing D&D, and then they're comedians, of course, and improv artists. So
from what I've seen, I think the DM has to almost always play as the straight man.
I think so, yeah. But I mean, I have seen, especially with, I think it was the Wizards of the Coast DMs, I don't want to criticize him too hard, but I guess I have this one criticism for him. I think his name is Chris Pramis. That might be the wrong guy. But he was running the D&D campaign for the Penny Arcade guys, also another podcast. And one of the things I didn't like about him is that he kept trying to get in on the jokes too, and he would make jokes too. And I nothing wrong with making jokes, of course, but I always find that it's I prefer it if the DM doesn't make as many jokes and the DM is sort of...
Unless the whole, campaign situation is inherently comical, like a light-hearted Alice in Wonderland type of romp.
That's the kind of campaign. Oh,
in which case it gets even funnier when played straight. Like Alice in Wonderland was a wonderfully weird place, but everyone in there assumed this is just how the world works, and so no one thought oh, look how wacky and crazy we are. No, man, that rabbit was late for a very important date. No time to say hello or goodbye. Yeah,
that's true. And that's another thing that comes up in my improv classes is we're not even trying to be funny at this point. We don't even care about big laughs or anything like that. We just... That's
where the best laughs come from, I've noticed.
Yeah, we're just trying to tell stories and just trying to create situations and just be well, I think I've talked to you about this before. Yeah, believe that you are that person and that your situation, it really matters to you because it's pain. Pain is funny. So,
well, isn't that what Mel Brooks effectively said? One of his quotes was, "Tragedy is when I get a paper cut. Comedy is when you fall down an open manhole and die in the sewer."
So, yeah, exactly. I wonder now, if how funny. We don't try to be funny on this podcast either, necessarily.
We have our moments.
So I wonder how entertaining that was talking about. Anyways, so I've been listening to a lot of D&D podcasts. So I recommend that if our listeners are also into
I'm
D&D.
Intrigued now. I'm going to try and give that a little bit more of a whirl.
If you're younger than, I don't know, 18, I guess. Ask your parents first, but other than that... Yeah.
Ask your parents' permission before going online.
Yeah. If you're listening to this podcast and you're under 18, well, I think technically, you could be listening to us, yeah.
We're not that bad. We're not a bad influence.
And we keep it... Yeah.
And if your parents complain about listening to us, just say that as a quote. Hey, they say it themselves. We're not a bad influence.
That's right.
See, we got it covered for you. No worries.
And I also, who else have I been listening? Critical Hit is another podcast. Do you know about them?
From time to time, whenever I get I always got to pay attention to what my daughter's doing and all that, so I got to wait till she's asleep. And then sometimes I just don't have any energy left. Yeah.
So Critical Hit, the podcast, not the live show. The Critical Hit is also a live show in Vancouver, which has nothing to do with, they're not even related at all to the other podcasts, except they both have the name Critical Hit because that's a D&D term and people like it. So I recommend both. I've only seen the Critical Hit live show when they came to Victoria for GotaCon, but they were very funny. and they play all the time in Vancouver at the Rio Theatre.
Yes, my brother Jason's seen them from time to time. Quite likes them.
Oh yes, okay, cool. So yeah, there's that critical. But I was thinking, getting off on all these tangents. The Critical Hit podcast, with starring the cast, I guess, the podcasters who do the Major Spoilers podcast, which is a comic book podcast, and they sort of spun off into their D&D.
They make sure to have different podcasts that focus.
Yeah, they also do a Munchkin podcast, I think, and I don't know what else.
Whereas over here on the Simulationist, we are a hodgepodge, kind of a potpourri sort of thing going on here.
Yeah.
We'll talk about anything, man.
That's right.
We're dirty that way.
So the episode in question that I enjoyed this week, it's funny. I talk about as simulations I've been running, even though it's just other people. I'm listening to other people's stuff, but that's how we do.
It's levels within levels, man.
That's how we do consumption.
It's the never-ending story.
Exactly. So the last episode I listened to, they changed into like sort of animals. I think they left their main characters off to the side, and they played some alternative characters for a while. So one is a whooping crane, another one is I think like a lizard, another one is like a mangy coyote, something like that. They're all like kind of, and they're all a little bit magical too. I think one might have been an actual fairy, but I'm not sure. It might.
Didn't
have been
I run the campaign for you, something like that? One of you played an Ioun Stone, and the other one played an awakened dog.
Yeah.
With a Levelin Paladin.
Yeah, we did that for like one session.
It was a good one-off session, I won't lie.
The nice thing about this was that even though they were animals, they also, like the DM, he gave them sort of powers and abilities. So it felt like a normal D&D campaign, just with extra weird abilities. So that was pretty fun, and I listened to it, so I recommend that one as well. Yeah, there. That's what I've been doing. I've been listening to other podcasts.
You've been accumulating knowledge on our various rivals.
Yeah, I suppose in a way they are. Our other rivals are NPC Cast. They're another one.
Everyone else who's making a podcast except Kevin Smith.
Yeah, Kevin Smith even did a D&D. I think it lasted 2, maybe 3 sessions, but they played D&D.
That's not bad for Kevin Smith.
Yeah. And he was trying to, like, his thought was that, well, I'll be the DM because I'm creative and likes telling stories, but I don't think he did a very good job at being a DM, just because it
takes a lot of effort and a lot of training to get it right. No one's a DM off the bat.
Yeah, you can't just pick it up from nowhere. Although, I mean, it helps. It definitely, like Kevin Smith, of all the people to run it, He knows
how to tell a story, at least, so he knows about narrative and flow to those degrees.
Yeah, but I think if he practiced a little bit more, he'd be really awesome at being a DM. But I don't know how. Well, no, let me see. How do I characterize Kevin Smith? He says himself that he's very lazy, but he also gets in the zone when he's writing, and he will just write like a whole movie script in a weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's how he works.
And he has an inspirational source that allows him to come up with some really good ideas.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard some of his ideas. I would love to see Sci-Fi, pick like every third idea he has up and turn it into one of their bad movies.
I should mention, while I'm on the topic, I guess, 3.5 Private Sanctuary is also good inspiration about D&D podcasting. Brian Posehn does a D&D podcast. I didn't like the first episode I heard, but that was just their first episode, so it
take the
probably
first
gets
5,
better.
Episodes, iterations, whatever you want to call it, with a bit of a grain of salt. You gotta figure out a format and perfect it first.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm probably leaving out a bunch of RPG podcasts too. There is an RPG podcasts website with a list and all that I think we're on, and there are many other. Fear the Boot, another one. But I don't know. It's turned into just me listing all the podcasts I know. So.
But yeah, you've been watching, paying attention, scouting out.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I think that's enough of me.
Okay.
What have you been up to? Simulation.
Well, I've been playing more of the Marvel Avengers Alliance Tactics game, which is fresh out, and so I'm there on the ground floor, and Okay, so you know about the National Short Story Writing Month, right?
National Short Story.
NaNoWriMo?
Well, there's National Novel Writing Month.
Novel writing, okay. Well,
Okay. And
so,
there's a Poetry Month. Is it April or July? I can't remember.
is there any way I can get a deferral from a novel to editing wiki pages? Because it turns out I am incredibly prolific when it comes to that.
I would say, I mean, it's very fluid, so I guess I won't say no for sure, but I think the idea with NaNoWriMo is not editing. The idea is to produce content out of nothing.
Well, that's the thing, is I am producing content out of nothing. I was playing a game, and I was alt-tabbing back and forth. It's like, oh, okay, 4 enemies attack, and then I get to go, so I'll alt-tab, and I'll check out my Facebook feed, or play another game, alt-tab back and forth, or I'll read the news, do something else, right? Make sure I make the most of every 10 minutes of my life.
All right.
And so I'm playing the game, and it's like, okay, we get 4 dinosaurs attacking, and then I get to go. And I tab out. When I come back in, I'm like, oh, why isn't it, Iron Man's turn? Why am I down a character? What happened to Iron Man? The dinosaurs ate him. And so I'm like, what's going on here? What did those dinosaurs do to eat my poor Iron Man? And so I go to the wiki, and I'm looking over at it, and it's the entry form is 3 words. 2 of those words are the name of the dinosaur, and the third one is just the class that it is in the game, and that is it. So I'm like, well, heck, I can do better than 3 words. And so I start paying attention to what they're doing. I start taking notes. I got a little notepad open up, just not covering the whole screen, but just off to the side. Yeah. And then, okay, this dinosaur did this, he did that, and it's called this ability. He can do that. It's a melee ability. One enemy causes this status effect. And I start taking notes. Crash the floor with the dinosaurs. Go on to the next mission. I'm fighting AIM scientists. These are like evil, well, I won't call them mad scientists because they're kind of like scientist lackeys. Somewhere between a scientist and Igor.
Mad research assistants.
Well, that's the thing, is they got xenobiologists.
Mad grad students.
They've got thermochemists, which is what they call people who like to play around with flamethrowers. Yeah, it's fun stuff like that. Like if you graduated at the bottom of your class and you didn't have the best ethics, well, congratulations. There's work for you at AIM, and they'll give you a steady paycheck. Thank goodness they don't exist in real life, otherwise I might be working for them. Hey, pays the bills. But so every time they're moving, I'm taking notes on the whole thing, and I start really getting into the game. Like I enjoyed it before, but now it's like none of the enemies can make a move without me learning something about them, without me gaining knowledge. Every fight I come out with these massive handfuls of precious information. And it's better than getting the resources and the currencies in the game. And so I go over at the end of having a little fun there, and I start tossing all the information I have, and basically shovelful after shovelful onto the internet. Put up a nice little entry sort of thing for like what is going on with it. There's not much to say about like an AIM biologist.
Okay.
They're a mook. They've got a couple abilities. That's about it for them. Sorry, not much else to be done about that. So I come up with a little thing, just something to write up a nice little entry thing, so it's not so blank. Mm-hmm. And okay, someone also put in like an image of them later on, and all the make it look fashionable. I'm working with function right now. Make sure that someone coming in can have some information. And I'm really getting into it this week, and I've just been I had no idea I get this much entertainment off of gathering data. I mean, apparently, yes, I have been properly educated in the sciences, because this makes me intensely happy. I'm gathering data in my research. I will go through this 100 times if that's what it takes to learn everything I can. And that's something I learned about myself. I enjoy that. It's not just something to pass the time. I derive actual happiness from this act of learning information.
Yeah.
And posting it up like some sort of like a treasure case,
you think
trophies
you're
on
ruining it for future people who want to do that same thing, or do you think you're...
They could always probably, edit it and fix it up and, and do a little bit of a better parsing and all this and that. I mean,
okay.
Right now, some of the stuff I was like, okay, I've got 4 different attacks that they use or, special abilities. I post that up properly. It could probably use a little editing, make sure it doesn't look like a big long, like line of text going down the screen.
Mm-hmm. So
there we go. I mean, there's someone who can always say, it's all there, but it looks ugly. I can make it look good. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm about, form or, or function over form.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to make what I find look good, I mean, heck, yeah, that's great for me. So yeah, that's been my big thing this week is learning about myself through really getting into the game.
Oh, I like that. It's kind of like mapping the territory. Did you ever have, I didn't ever do this with an RPG, although I think I almost did. I think I quit the RPG, but I had a Star Trek game that had a database full of planets and stars in the galaxy that you could fly to. And it was very super detailed but basically in the game it was just a list of. Somebody came up one day with, hundreds of star names and
randomly generated.
Yeah, numbers of planets and numbers of moons. But then when you play the game, you can sort of go to each one. You can physically, your ship flies to a planet or a moon, and somebody assigned it a picture. I think they used the same picture quite a bit over and over, but basically...
It would probably not be cost effective to come up with several thousand independent images on that.
Yeah. But I did write down, I copied down all the structures okay, there's this star, it has this and this planet with, this and each planet list the moons. So I sort of copied all that down and made my own little, notes.
Astro-navigational charts?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would do that with old video games. I don't know, I guess nowadays it's done on the wiki, so...
And that's the thing, is the joy of the wiki is to basically say, I have gathered all this information, I have fought, and not only have I vanquished my enemies, I became stronger intellectually for it. But I do believe there's, some, a group of people out there that like to do that in real life. I mean, the people out there looking at all those exoplanets, they are hunting to find every last possible secret planet, and they're analyzing some very, very minute data points, just to say, there's a planet orbiting around that star. I can tell. And so I get maybe they're making better use out of this joy than I am. I'm playing a game on Facebook. They're actually finding planets out in the rest of the the Milky Way galaxy. And it's oh geez, now I feel a little bad for myself. It's like I could have done more. I could have been like them, but no, I'm learning the fictional moves of mook bad guys.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how many jobs there are for people. There's definitely people, they need computing, right? Because that's one of the things I don't know if Kepler does this, but what is it? It's SETI that does the...
Oh, yeah, I've got SETI running on my computer. Every hour, every minute, it's, powered up and running.
Yeah. So there's you can do that.
And I do like watching it occasionally as it runs itself, Mm-hmm. My daughter likes it too. She wound up falling asleep to it a couple of times when she was a little younger. Just look at all the pretty colors moving around on the screen. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, she's snoring. Because, my daughter snores. It's a thing. It's a family trait. But, that was my big thing this week is learning that much about myself, just to because I was so happy. It's oh yes, look at all this information I've gotten. This guy's got 4 attack moves. I can have I put in 3,000 characters onto a single page and all that, and then I'm going around. I'm looking at the currencies. I'm I can do a lot better than this. And so I spend an hour writing up the uses of gold in the game. It's the premium currency, the one you actually spend real world cash on.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm writing up how you get it naturally. Be careful because this is how you can spend it, and and you only get so much without paying the money.
Right.
And I'm looking at it. It's I'm happy about that now. But that's 1 out of 6 currencies in the game. What if I got 5 more of these to go. I've only worked on 2 of them so far. I'm just a mortal man. Would that I had an extra couple sets of arms so that I could be typing several articles at once, but And every time I'm doing it, I'm upgrading things, I'm making it look better, I'm linking better, I'm learning more for every page. So that just means I have to go back and refine everything that I've done. It's like, well, I can make it do better than this. This is how we go here. And, So yeah, that's what I've been learning about myself. I really dig data analysis and retrieval. Who knew? Not me. But, there we go. I also read one of, apparently, the best Conan stories out there.
Okay.
This is the Tower of the, the Elephant. And you know what was weird about that one? He was actually, the author was actually trying to work in a style like Lovecraft. 'Cause they were contemporaries back in the day. And, he really liked Lovecraft stories, so he tries it with a Conan story, and you can tell he's definitely trying. It's like, ooh, this is a creature. He calls it a transcosmic being. But whereas Lovecraft's transcosmic beings were had radial symmetry and weird things like hand type stuff coming out of the top of a cone, and oh yeah, that's not even the worst thing. That's something that could potentially sympathize with humanity. This is as good as you get in Lovecraft's world. No, his creature was like a human with the head of an elephant. It's like, points for trying. And I like the term transcosmic. I will have to use that myself at some point in the future. But doesn't qualify up with the great old ones or the the forgotten races of prehistory. Nice points, nice try. And it was a really well written story. It shows. But here's the thing: is one of the reasons everyone used to love this story so much back in the 1920s when it came out was it told about the history. This creature, that Conan meets, the elephant from the Tower of the Elephant. He explains, he was around when Atlantis was there. He and his fellow, elephant-headed people had the chance to see civilization rise and fall and rise again. And because this is how it works in the Conan stories. When civilization falls, people turn into apes.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? It's a little weird and maybe has some potential connotations if you extrapolate out far enough. I dig it as a thing, okay, you lose civilization, you become an ape person, you gain civilization back, congratulations, you become human again. Well, not you, but, the race and the subgroup of, your tribe, suddenly it's like, hey, we're no longer covered in fur everywhere. Hooray! Yeah. But, it explains the history, and people used to like that because it's like, oh, if you read the story, you actually learn about the history of what's going on. But for me, that wasn't big, fun, fancy news. It wasn't a big revelation of what life was like before Conan was around, because I have the Wikipedia. I just go there. It's like, oh, it's the Hyborian Age. I Google up Hyborian Age, and it tells me what the heck's going on in his pseudo-historical setting. And so I found that one interesting, that the big revelation, the wonderful chance to learn has been outpaced by what I've been doing, wiki, type editing and putting up articles.
Yeah, and that's weird because you get examples like the Bible and the Silmarillion, which can be very dry, and it reads like the Wikipedia. It reads... And
so-and-so went to here. He did this sort of thing. He tried to go into the castle. The castle will not let him. The monsters were too tough, so he will return back.
Yeah, and I feel like when I was younger, and I don't know if this is everybody's experience, because I think a lot of people really get into the Silmarillion, for example.
I tried. It broke me, though.
But yeah, when I was younger, I was like, this isn't fun. This is... But on the other hand...
I actually want to go back to my history textbook. What did you do?
Well, and that's the thing. The history textbooks and the Wikipedias are sort of a very similar idea to that. They're written in that sort of non-dramatic way and just telling you just the facts. And then, so I don't know where the line is that makes that fun to read. Or do we just read it, I don't know, because we got nothing else to do, or because we're older now?
Well, I think it's with the Conan stuff, with the Hyborian Age, is you hear about oh yes, Atlantis, and then you get your because what you've learned about the fictional setting of Atlantis, it never really existed. It was meant as just an excuse for Plato to show how great his wonderful utopian society was of philosopher kings. He needed a big enemy that would just meet utter defeat at the hands of his ideal society. It was a storytelling purpose. It never really existed. Please understand this. Okay, now that's out of the way. And so, Atlantis existed, and then, it's like, well, Atlantis is just a myth now. So what happened in the in-between time? Mm-hmm. And so you do learn some wonderful things about, oh, that's what happened. You knew A, you knew C, you want to learn B. So if the history textbooks could say, this is what things used to be like, this is your life now, here's what happened in between, maybe it would be a little richer.
I've heard that point made that sort of they need to connect it to something you already care about, you're already interested in.
Because I got to say, back in university, I had to take a history class for graduation requirements, and there was only one chapter in the entire semester I liked, and that was the bubonic plague.
You liked it?
It had a biological connection.
Oh, I see, because you were taking biology at the time.
I got my biology degree, and that's the only thing that seemed to appeal to me, was how did this infectious disease, go through, and what were the societal ramifications thereafter? Apparently things were pretty sweet once everyone stopped dying, because there was, plenty of food. You want some steak? You go to, the farmers, areas. You find a family that's been dead from all the stuff. You find one of their cows that's just out eating grass. Take it in, get it butchered, eat yourself steak. And then things really got bad because, 1/3 of the population died out in Europe, but so did a lot of the farmers. Because it was transmitted via vermin, like rats. And rats tend to follow the food sources. Who's creating the food source? The farmers. So they got hit a little harder.
Right.
And so, after it's all this excess food, kind of worked its way out of the system, everybody was really hungry and pretty much starving.
Then they got starving. And then after that, they did revolutions with the French Revolution.
Because, once you get hungry, you get angry. And once you get angry, you decide to start chopping heads. Who's the best head to chop? That guy who's not hungry. So, apparently sometimes it pays to skip a meal. It's like, hey, I'm ruling, but I'm hungry here too. Let's attack the really rich people, this 1% of the population who's not hungry. Next thing you know, everyone's attacking the 1%ers. Not that I'm advocating anything through, some sort of subversive means here.
I suppose that's its own topic, a modern situation.
But that was the only bit that was able to interest me. Although there was an interesting thing on punishment and crimes and how they change over time. But that was just because they had a really charismatic speaker for that part.
Oh, yeah.
They had guest speakers in for every section. This guy, he was doing like a fire and brimstone type thing. It's like, oh, I'm paying attention. I'm taking notes now. It was not too dry. So if you can find some way to make history not be dry, congratulations, you've got yourself effectively like a Conan story where, so-and-so meets the person who knows the history, it explains it before, I won't give away the twist ending as to what exactly Conan does when he meets the Elephant Man.
Right. Well, I guess, that's why people recommend you read sort of The Hobbit, then The Lord of the Rings, then the Silmarillion, even though the Silmarillion contains material that happens before all of that. You'll be more interested in that backstory.
It means more to you.
Yeah.
If I was to write a story about a land you never knew of, containing a hero you'd never heard of before, who was related to a very famous figure that had never been mentioned before in your life...
Actually, I'm kind of interested.
I like
hero. I like that word, hero.
A little interested, but
land,
if it
distant land, I like that.
If it connects up though to something you know and have at least emotionally invested, you're much more willing to go the extra distance.
Yeah, a bit, but if it's like history and stuff, it's often like, and this person was born, and they were born a king, and they died a king.
See, but that's what I like about Canadian history, though, is we have enough weird people in it that at least you get that nice little well, I guess it's kind of like having a chocolate chip every once in a while. It's like, there's just a little bit of goodness.
Okay.
Like William Lyon Mackenzie, he wanted to establish like an insurrection, and all that, completely routed sort of thing. But things were going to be okay, except that he had made a list of all his conspirators, and he had that in like a briefcase type thing, and then he drops the briefcase as he runs away. And so it's like, that was the one thing you didn't want to do. And so everyone wound up getting, like prison time and all that, because they were all on the list of people helping to try and bring down the government. And then, 2 generations of his family later, William Lyon Mackenzie King becomes prime minister through legitimate means, gets in, and everyone has like a weird time thinking like, weird how things change. Or BC politics, you had that one guy who wanted to say he loved the universe and all that was in it. So he wanted to name himself like the lover of the universe. But he didn't really know French, so when he called himself Amour de Cosmos, he really called himself a universal lover. Kind of a man whore, if you will.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny that way how we.
Yeah, he's the guy who started the Times Colonist, right?
Yeah.
Or whichever is it the Colonist at the time and that merged with the Times.
Yeah, it became the Times Colonist newspaper that's still in publication today.
Our Victoria paper. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's what I like about Canadian history is we got just enough oddballs thrown in there to at least make sure it's not gonna get you to fall asleep.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
So we at least have that going for us. But yeah, that's been my week in a nutshell. I was learning a lot about myself through figuring out these weird things that, are you supposed to try and learn all the moves that each one of your mook enemies you're facing has?
Right.
I don't think so, but I'm digging it. 2 thumbs up, man.
2 thumbs up.
That's been my highlight of of my fictional week.
Okay, well, does that cover the topic that we were going to talk, or can we talk a bit more about that too?
Well, if you want, I thought we had another main topic idea this week.
Okay.
The one that I think you came up with before we started on here this week, was it? Or are we going with mine then? Because we're already, wading knee deep into it, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so your topic was the whole question of analyzing a game, a video game or a role-playing game, and how much time should players spend actually, sort of crunching numbers and being. Well, because
that's the thing is I found if I'm just running through the game, just going into every fight thing and just using my over-leveled heroes to blast on through so I can get the currency I really want to buy more heroes to repeat the process. I could knock off a decent amount of progress a day. The energy you use comes back 1 point per minute, so every 10 minutes you can get into another fight. And so, yeah, I can pretty much play forever. And if I'm not careful, I will find myself at 2 in the morning playing still. It's like, whoa. Knock it off there, buddy. Time for some sleep. But when I'm analyzing everything, I'm taking down notes from every time the opponent moves. I'm not going through anything nearly so fast. And I'm playing back again, replaying over this on this, doing this again.
It doesn't seem like it would be that much fun, just sort of hearing it described. No, but that's the thing is for me, it's like finding a bonus treasure. I come out with information. I come out with stuff that can help all sorts of people. It's like there are people that are going to say, how the heck can I beat this, mini-boss in this area? 'Cause sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes it's like, what you really need to do is get your characters up to this level, and then they get this ability, and you can fight them a lot more effectively. And it's like, that actually happens. I've been in a fight before where it's like, wow, we just got stomped. Go out, gain another level or 2, come on back, and it's like, now that I have this new ability, I basically have him roast alive at my enjoyment. Well, yeah, one of the things I've always enjoyed about D&D in particular, and role-playing games, is that you don't have to necessarily know the rules to try things.
I find that not knowing the rules allows you to try more interesting things.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that whole analysis, they talk about analysis paralysis thing, is you found the optimal solution, but you might miss something rather obvious about defeating a monster, like if the monster has an off switch or something like that, or a golem has. You
fight the beast of 10,000 eyes, and so you spend a lot of time, just discovering the best way to flank a being that can see from all directions, not realizing you're fighting him in the pepper factory.
Yeah, there you go. Something like that. Yeah, you might miss some obvious thing, but I mean, what's the answer to that? Is it be less analytical and be more open, or is it be more analytical and make sure you take into account the surroundings. And
make sure, to increase your scope.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things I've been doing is occasionally I go into a little PvP combat, blow some energy out. I try and find a base that indicates somebody isn't using it. They tried the game, and then they just never come back to it.
Okay.
And so I'm looking at the map now, I'm thinking, maybe I should make a small article on what the map is like for player versus player combat. Should I be going that in-depth and saying, okay, there's a choke point here and here. You're going to want to go this way here. If you put your people in your jet before you leave in this order, you can have a maximal range and just get the enemies in a pincher maneuver this way. Do I want to go that in-depth, even for me?
Possibly, because it feels to me like that is like when people set up a game like that, that's part of the game. You try different ways.
It is a part of the game that is getting a lot of controversy. It's like, this person keeps attacking me. I'm not having any fun with this game, and I think I'm going to leave it forever.
Yeah, that's not good.
So it's like an involuntary PvP situation. So it's not working as well as intended, perhaps.
Yeah, I guess so. And I guess that's something you have to contend with as a designer, is that when people... There's no way to get around people with different skill levels and different advancement levels.
Well, some people want to play against an enemy. Some people can only find enjoyment when they're playing against, like something another person has set up. So it's not truly a player versus player. It's more of a player versus AI. You just get to set up your half of the chessboard, so to speak.
Yeah, so similar to maybe a tower defense or something like that.
Yeah, something a little bit more like that.
Yeah.
But some people don't want to play that game. They say, I just want to have Iron Man... blasting the crap out of MODOK. Is that so much to ask?
Well, you can do that though, right?
Oh, yes.
Single player.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They don't want to come back and find that their base is currently on fire and it'll take 5 minutes to put out the fires.
Yeah.
It's like, why are they attacking me again? Every time I log in, it seems like every part of my base is on fire. Why is this?
Yeah, that's not good. And yeah, it seems like games nowadays, like... I downloaded a Marvel game, and I logged into it once and played it a little bit, and I was like, okay, I had fun. And then I haven't logged in since, but I'm actually afraid to, because I won't remember what to do, and I won't...
They have wikis for that.
Yeah, maybe I could just go on the wiki and find it.
Or start messing around with it. Sometimes you have a lot of fun just poking and prodding. Yeah, I mean, that's how you initially start to learn, and then later on, next thing you know, you catch yourself like, he's got this much movement speed on any given round, so, then use this as a tactical advantage, because, he can't move more than this many spaces. Ha ha ha. It, accrues, like a snowball rolling downhill.
Yeah. So, okay, so what is the question and what is the answer here?
Well, here's the thing, is how much is too much information? Because I remember back in the day playing like a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, and my guy was, I was going to go with like a Grim Reaper sort of motif. So he's like a fighter with specializes in the scythe. But I'm thinking, well, you know what? There's not really enough Reaper enough like for me, so I'll make sure he's got a book. And so I spend the money for a book and a quill and some ink sort of thing and all that, and he'll try and record down everyone who dies in his presence, as much information as possible. I still have the papers floating around in one of my books.
Yeah.
I remember it began with a goblin named Iki, and then there was Squeaky, and then there was a few other unknowns, and there was a decent number of unknowns here and there for like just nameless generic things that didn't have a name, like when you're fighting like wolves. The wolves might have a name for themselves, but I'll never figure that one out.
Yeah.
And so yeah, basically there's just when they died sort of thing, what who killed them sort of thing, and stuff like that. And like when the Dungeon Master started up the game, he just thought it'd be like, okay, yeah, I copied the stuff down, but I actually took the time to write this down on a physical sheet of paper and all that. And that kind of blew his mind that I was taking this much extra attention to detail.
Yeah. So
what if I was to switch it up? Yeah, instead of playing a fighter obsessed with, like who dies in his line of sight, what if I was a wizard? And I'm like, okay, I am not just, somebody who sits, in a tower, memorizing spell books all darn day. I am a field wizard. I am a researcher. And then when I encounter a monster of, we'll say, notable, abilities and strengths and all that, I will make sure to record it down. What exactly did he do? You saying this creature, it smelled bad, it touched you, and then you couldn't move. How long would you say you were paralyzed by this thing? and you called it a ghoul, and then the next thing you know, you've got, it's like, well, no, I know what a ghoul does. I've written it up. I've studied them in the field and their effects.
Yeah.
So you have that, I guess, maybe as ammunition against, like the Dungeon Master saying, you don't know about this. How do you know about this? It's like, dude, I studied it from the survivors we rescued. I asked them thoroughly on their questions.
Yeah.
I learned the tactics of this, how far away they can do that.
Well, and how much of that do you actually, sort of play out, or do you just say to your DM, well, my character goes and researches?
When the survivors are able to talk, I am going to question them thoroughly about what happened and what they remember.
I guess it's up to the DM to decide if he actually tells you then and there, or if he just says, yeah, your character learns what he needs to know about ghouls, and move on, or something like that.
Yeah, and then there's I guess you could say when an enemy wizard throws a spell out at you, you can make a spellcraft check, right?
Yeah.
Hey, and now you know what spell it is. But you could also work okay, how far away am I from him and all that sort of thing. And it's okay, I surmise by what I know of the spell and what I know of his spell casting in general, he is of such a level, there's no way he's going to be casting a 4th level spell at us unless he's being purposefully underusing his abilities. He's getting too close, and he's not at maximum range all the time.
Yeah. And that's an interesting kind of, it's close to metagaming, but
it's very borderline in-world knowledge.
Yeah, it's your wizard actually trying to figure out those tactical things.
I know that someone who can cast a 4th circle of spell power would be able to cast it at this sort of range. He's not shown that sort of example yet, so I estimate he is not that powerful a wizard.
Yeah, and I like too that. Do you remember in the Miniatures Handbook they introduced the Marshal class?
I do like that class.
Kind of like a fighter, but more tactical.
I did like that class. I would have liked to have had a chance to have played him out a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I played one for a couple levels, and it was. I liked it. It was fun, and I like them because they're the sort of person who would. I mean, a wizard you can, or you might. A wizard might be interested in other things.
I'm just here to beat him up and steal a spell box.
Yeah, and a wizard might be interested in a certain kind of knowledge, like knowledge about the universe, but not necessarily knowledge about every single creature and how
many infinities away do you come from, Mr. Outsider?
Yeah, something like that. But the Marshal, I can definitely see being that guy who pays very close attention to all the little tactics, even more so than the fighter, who you would think the fighter would be kind of interested in that. But
I think fighters should be more interested in that sort of thing, and I think that would really help define the role of a fighter, but not everyone seems to play it that way, so fighters tend to go to meat shield categories, sad to say.
And then 4th edition had the Warlord, which I think was basically the evolution of the Marshal. And I hope that 5th edition has a similar class.
A more melee, or at least martial focus with tactical abilities.
Yeah, and I think they probably will stick with Warlord is my guess, but I don't actually know. So
maybe a different name would work better. Warlord tends to imply pillaging towns to some degree.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it's the same baggage that comes with the name fighter or warrior, in that it's very just I smash and that's all I do. I smash and I never think.
Which is why I do appreciate sometimes using at least a custom different name. Like a ranger, you imagine being out, in the vast open fields between, societies and nations. Mm-hmm. But what if you were called a hunter? Then you can see yourself coming into town at least a few times a season. It makes a little bit more sense to have an animal companion with you, because you get that whole thing about we fought for days, but neither of us was able to get a clear advantage over the other, and so instead we bonded on that, and that's why I've got a bear with me. Don't mess with me, buddy.
Yeah, I like that. Of course, hunters used in World of Warcraft, of course, but...
And that's the thing, is they play very much like a ranger, but with a bit of a different bent on it. So just by calling your ranger a hunter, it changes how people perceive you, how you want to play the game. So if you do want to be the meat shield guy, go with a fighter. If you want to play it like I'm a paladin sort of style, but I don't want to have to put up with all the weird crap paladin stuff, and I think their abilities are overpowered, you go with a knight.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So you can work it that way. If you want to have yourself an Oriental Adventures thing, you play yourself the fighter class, but you call yourself a samurai.
Yep.
And so I think there's a lot to be done there. Just having hey, why don't you call yourself this? You want to be a fighter, but you want to like fight dirty and and be okay with punching people in the gut? Call yourself a gladiator. It's like, yeah, that's how I survived in the pits.
Yeah, I like it.
I think that is what they're going to be winding up doing in 5th edition. Is effectively with it's not that far from the kits they used to have back in 2nd edition. Slight change here and there with your abilities and all that, and
well, they had that in 4th too. They had slayers, like fighters could also be slayers, or I forget what else, but yeah, they sort of divided the classes up a little bit for essentials. I don't know how well it was received, but
I do like the concept, and I think a lot of the old grognards, as the saying goes, really would like to see the return to being able to kit out a class. Mm-hmm. It's like, I like this class, but it's not what I really wanted to play. What can I do to change it up a little bit? It's like, try this kit to it. It's like, that's exactly what I want to be. I didn't want to be a thief, like where I backstab people. I want to be more of a skill-based thief, and so you become an acrobat.
Yes.
And there you go. So it's like, now I don't feel bad about not using my backstab ability. I'm an acrobat. You want me to get, across this ravine using only a thin rope, someone fired from their bow? Yeah, I can do that. I'm the acrobat. Bam. That's what I'm at. That's what I'm for.
Yeah.
And I noticed when you're playing this sort of thing, this very special style, it almost lends itself to new spells, new abilities, magic items, and that sort of thing. Like, if you're playing an acrobat sort of thing, and you don't want to be bogged down all the time by, like, how do I, create, like a rope thing over there. I have to, use the bow and arrow to pin it over. Instead, I believe there's a nice low-level rope magic trick that you can use. Imbue that sort of thing onto a rope as a magic item, and then you've got it moves itself and stays solid as you like it. And then all of a sudden you've got yourself that tight rope wherever your acrobat wants to walk across.
Teamwork.
That's the thing. And doesn't that sound like a magic item that you would probably not use unless you were an acrobat? Something that focuses on that particular niche.
Yeah.
Because I remember going through a lot of splat books for my my Grim Reaper type warrior, and I found, Monty Cook, you always come up with the best little things. He came up with a spell that was basically, you cast it and you learn a little bit about the subject. You don't need the full body. Just a finger will wind up doing, and it tells you stuff, and it's like, this has everything I'm going to need to know, everything I ever wanted to put on there. What I could wind up doing, if I could have a magic device that could do this thing once per, round, all I'd have to do is cut off a little fetish, like a little finger off of every person who dies around me, carry it around with me, have it properly tagged, and then later on I'll copy the information into my book. And so that, I was like, if I had done that, that would have added a very interesting character type quirk to him. He takes trophies, not permanently, it's just for information gathering until he can finish his book up.
I like the idea that the book can be finished.
Eventually it's going to run out of pages. It was a non-magical book.
Oh, yeah.
Although I suppose, if he ever wanted to, he could try searching out for a book that had an infinite number of pages, and then he'd just transcribe it all, and then it would never be over, and he would, do whatever he wanted with every other page he could come across. And that sounds interesting to me. That's, like a book that has infinite number of pages, but you can't use it to, write spells on there, so it's not a, one-stop spell book for everything. Right. Well, there we go, though. That's an interesting little magical item that just crops out of the niche of the character. And so by having this, by playing it this much more in-depth, this much more focused for a role, I find all this stuff that people would otherwise never think about just pops out, and it's like, this is a decent idea. It's like, he is a fighter. Maybe he should find something besides, a nice big chunk of glass to carry around his ink in. What if he just had a nice little magic quill that didn't break for nothing and wrote whenever you needed it to? Well, that would work for a number of wonderful classes. It could be a nice cheap 100, gold piece magic item.
Yeah, sure.
And then it just starts cropping out from there. It's like, oh, I've created a very high utility, very cheap magic item that could conceivably be found in all sorts of treasure hoards everywhere because of its wonderful utility. And all of a sudden, bam, you've got yourself an extra little bit of flavor in the campaign. Oh yeah, you found one of those, eternal quills. There you go. Or, I don't know, I just made up the name right off the top of my head. It will write forever, so it's an eternal quill.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so there's D&D is really good for that because it's very open.
The customizable nature of it works very wonderfully there. You don't get the opportunity to do that in stuff like Facebook games, though.
Yeah, because they're more defined and more closed and more single path or double path or whatever.
Yeah.
And
for now, you never know when modding becomes a really big thing and that takes off. Is like, because it used to be that you'd almost never see multiplayer in a game. Now it's a big thing. Like just try playing any AAA game on any console without it having multiplayer option. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, and well, I am a big I don't play too much multiplayer, but I think it's a very valuable thing to have in games.
It adds extra flavor, extra flair, extra unpredictability.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dark Souls series is, hey, people are liking the wonderful nature of that, but the concept of PvP in there is just completely changing up on its head. People are loving it or hating it as they so see fit.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe modding becomes the next thing that gets in. It's like, dude, your game does not have any modability. Like, how long ago were you planning this? What a bunch of primitives you are. Ugh.
So I guess that gets into the topic that we rarely actually address directly, but that's the gamist, narrativist, simulationist theory. In that, there's D&D where that sort of writing down the tactics and stuff is very open and very lots of possibilities. And then
we'll call it effectively open access freeware sort of thing, because anyone can, that has access to the book can see all the rules.
Well, you can see all the rules, but also it's it's a living, breathing world. So in theory, there are infinite possibilities.
It's beautiful that way.
Best one. Whereas there are games that are more tight. An extreme example is chess, and there's a finite number, even though it's very large. There's a finite number of rules to that one, or a finite number of moves that you can make. So you could, in theory, find the optimal one.
Technically finite, but the number of moves is apparently greater, or positions on the chessboard is apparently greater than the number of atoms in the Milky Way galaxy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's let's work with tic-tac-toe. It's a 3x3 grid. That is much easier to work down.
And that one is solved. And checkers is solved. And that's the word they use in game theory to say that if you know your starting position, you can always
determine.
Win.
Yeah. Mancala is being solved, although I can't always find that whenever I'm looking for it. My wife likes playing it from time to time. We have a copy of the game. It's a nice game, very good. Apparently it's 25,000 years old, so it's about time someone solved it.
Yeah, one of the oldest games ever, yeah.
Well, all you need is a few rocks and a couple pits to dig out, so it's one of those games you can kind of pick up, play anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Society, we're in Stone Age culture, what kind of game are we going to play? Well, here's a couple, dig outs from the ground here, and here's some pebbles. Let's play. You got the time, I got the time, let's play till sundown, baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. I don't know, but here's the thing is, would you like to know the solved position for the game? Would you like to know how to always at least tie on tic-tac-toe? Because I gotta say, there was one day I was rather bored. I was at work, and I couldn't leave until the end of my shift. But I was really quite bored, and so I decided, well, let's play tic-tac-toe against myself. And I know the whole thing, they play in the center, you play in the side, and then the game basically works out so that you can never win. Any move they make, you have to counter, and then they come up with that either you play in spot A and they win over on B, or you play in spot B and they win over in A. And it's oh. So I'm I am tired of that. But it occurs to me, no matter which side I pick, it's effectively the same game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to play in a corner. And so I start working it out on that way, and I figured out how to, at least never lose a game. And then it's the game suddenly became a little less for me. It's a little smaller, a little drier, a little less fun.
Yeah, it's not, and I guess there's because playing a game is a similar activity to solving a math problem, or solving a problem, in that you're discovering that optimal path or the optimal set of decisions to get to the end.
No one wants to solve their math equation in 27 steps when they could take it in 4. So that's basically what you're learning to do in your math class. That's basically what you're effectively doing whenever you're playing like a particular scenario out in a game.
And I don't see in math textbooks, I mean, you see a lot of repetitive exercises, but you don't see the exact same problem repeated necessarily.
Although I think it would be good, especially for the lower grades, to go through that a few times. Do questions 1 through 6 3 times, but don't go back and check yourself there, and then just compare the answers against. That way, that you don't even need the answers at the back of the book. Did the answer match up every time? If not, figure out what you did, and that way you're learning from your own stuff. I think you could get the kids to learn a lot more than to have them do 18 questions once, do 6 questions 3 times, and double check to see if they always matched up.
Yeah, that might work. You might, though, the kid might have a systematic error, in the way they're doing the...
And that's the thing, is they still hand it in to the teacher. The teacher checks then. It's you've got this systematic error. I can show you exactly what you're doing wrong. Try it again, see if you get the right answer, and then bam, you've solved the problem. Because a lot of people think teachers are just babysitters for a lot of points, but there's a lot that connects them, I think, over to IT tech support, to trying to figure out what the heck is going wrong and minimize the amount of errors in time for a test to make sure you can prove that you can teach kids. Hooray! So yeah, especially when it comes to math teachers in that sort of case.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. That the whole you're playing a game to sort of solve a problem. It's very similar.
But that's the thing is when I'm taking the information out of the game and all that, I'm not exactly playing it the same way. I'm not playing to solve. I'm playing to analyze. I'm like the person that goes over his answers a second time and making sure he's double checking every step. Did I make sure to reduce the negative and negative for a positive? Did I make sure to carry that over and remove out and do all this up?
Now, does it make a difference with your analysis? We have mathematical tools to deal with randomness, but what if you encounter random parts? I guess you're... And
that's the thing is sometimes in these fights, it's not like you always encounter these people of this class. The dinosaur fight is what initially got me because I was going onto the forums and everyone was like, these dinosaurs ate everyone. What happened? Why did I lose? And so I go into the game and I look and it's sometimes I'm getting 3 of one class, 2 of another. Sometimes it's all spread out. But every once in a while, you encounter 4 of one type and just a nice little generalist, basic, I'm not anything special dinosaur. And I was looking at it, it's one of these dinosaurs is twice the level of all the others. And so that means their attack values are higher, their defense values are higher, their health tallies are much higher. And so I'm looking at it, it's these purple little infiltrators are level 10 as opposed to everyone else's level 5. When the players are first going through here, they're level 5 at best the first time around. I believe they're encountering opponents twice their level and getting eaten by them. I think that's what's causing the issue. And so, I was okay, I learned a few of the moves of these dinosaurs. And I go onto the wiki. I put up an article. I say, they're notably infamous as there is a chance upon being going into the encounter of having 4 of them. So if you don't have the right class, if you take they got the hero Iron Fist. He's a martial artist and he has the Iron Fist.
Okay.
Which means he punches really freaking hard.
Okay.
And his class means against these purple dinosaur things, he can attack twice. He can really put the hurt on to them. So even though they're higher level, he's if you got this hero, you are doing so much better in this fight.
Oh, that's good.
And so I put in a little tactic, so it's just be careful. You can encounter them. Having a scrapper type hero is very recommended, even if you don't encounter them, because just the level difference and their ability difference, and then you can go and check out. Oh yeah, by the way, they also poison you. Sometimes they poison you with a bite. Sometimes they poison you with spit. and sometimes they just run up to you and claw you as a default natural thing, and then they attack you anyways. And so it's nice up there, and that way the people have like a warning. It's like, dude, careful. Some of these dinosaurs can eat Iron Man, literally, as it turns out, if you're not careful. So yeah, you wind up getting the extra tactics out there. You can help the people out, and it's basically put a nice little red flag out there and all that sort of thing. And yeah, so but here's another little sub question I've got for you on this sort of thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it a bad thing if it makes me want to replay the game again and again? If it really enhances my personal replay value?
Well, no.
I have fought these dinosaurs an awful lot.
It's definitely not a bad thing if you're enjoying it.
I have made sure to purposefully lose just so I don't have to go back and do the previous fights, just so I can fight them immediately again.
Oh, yeah.
I've sent, less than a full crew of heroes. I'm just going to send the one hero out here and see what all their moves are. I will purposefully take a dive.
Well, if you're having fun doing that, then I can't say don't do that. There are times when I feel like that sort of gameplay is a little bit cheaty, like the whole dying on purpose.
Oh, you have wounded me.
Just so that you can, respawn in the right place or
gain
whatever.
more knowledge.
Yeah, and that's always a problem in games. I mean, you see that in every game from I think even Mario has occasionally something like that in it.
I won't lie. In the other Marvel game I play, when the player versus player combat tournaments come up, I purposefully dive bomb my score just so I can fight easier opponents. I still get the rewards off of winning so many combats a day, but I always make sure to bomb my score down as low as possible so I don't have to spend 2 hours going through very slow, powerful fights. Instead, I find the weenies and I smack them around, and I get so many fights done in about 10 minutes. Done.
Yeah. And there might be a name for that in gameplay, but
in that game it's called the Dedicated Silver League. You purposefully make sure you never get higher than the lowest ranking in the tournament.
Yeah. But I don't think that's necessarily desirable. Once you get the game in your hands, I think it's fair game, fair play. But I don't think that's desirable behavior from the game designer's point of view. Is they would prefer you not do things like kill yourself on purpose to gain a bonus or... Well,
I'm not getting a bonus. I'm just getting another chance to get more knowledge. I want to see what happens if I move myself up to the corner of the map. What do the dinosaurs do when they can't attack me? Because in the game you have active attack abilities, and then you've got a passive ability. It's always active sort of thing. And then you've got what they call guard abilities. If you can't attack anyone, push this one, it ends your turn. And this one is they gain a special ability because they don't have just a regular guard. They've got this ability, and now I learn about that, something I wouldn't have gained otherwise, because otherwise, the dinosaurs are always too close. They can always find someone to try and bite.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Well, and this has been. I think the point I was trying to get at with Mario is that what players do is they play the same level over and over and over and over again.
I do recall on Super Mario Brothers 2. World 3-something, where you have turtle shell going. You can have it bounce back and forth on the same screen, but there's also always turtles coming up out of a pipe. And so, as those who have played the Mario game know, a turtle shell accrues more points the more creatures it hits, as long as it keeps on moving, and eventually Mario gets a 1-up. And so you can just wait out the time on the map and just wait until everything runs out and gain yourself 50 lives doing that.
Oh.
So you run the map twice, then you finish the game on finish that zone on the third try, and you walk out of there with 99 lives.
Actually, yeah. Any time you can gain more than 2 lives in a row, you get that you...
This is much more efficient than just 2 in a row. This is something where you can gain 40-something lives for the cost of 1.
Bigger. But my thought was that basically you're doing a similar thing with Mario when you're playing a level over and over and over again. You're basically... And everybody who plays the game does this. you basically memorize each level. You know what's coming next, so you can exactly
but they put in stuff there so that you can't just naturally guess your way to a perfect score. You need to find the 3 big coins or the dragon coins, or you want to find the secret exit. I remember Super Mario World had a lot of multiple exits and different ways to gain different paths through there. I loved it. Every time I get the chance to play that game, I love it. I'll play it again, and I'll try and go for that 100% completion, find the star road, get all the extra exits, go on out, do this and do that.
Well, and it's funny, too, because I will go back, like now, and play some of the old games that I played as a kid on, Sega Genesis.
What was I doing? Oh, it's just so much easier to do it this way.
Well, it's funny because there are levels in certain games that I'm like, my fingers still know what to do. It's so weird because
I can remember where to find at least 2 warp whistles.
It's like I can remember like spending hours getting over like a certain jump or just getting it right, and then I go back there 10, 15 years later, and
turns out muscle memory is very long-lasting memory.
I seem to still be able to do it. I don't know how that works, and there's some of them are like, how did I do this? Because I don't know what I forget, or that muscle memory is gone, but in a lot of cases it seems to still be there.
Why is this difficult? I seem to recall it being easier a decade ago when I played this game consistently.
There are other games, though, that feel a lot easier now that I pick them up, but it might be that I'm using, like, computer controllers, like a keyboard instead of the controller. That might, although you'd think the controller would make it easier. I don't know how that works anyway.
Apparently, no one put the utmost into their games back then, and so you'd have those bad hit boxes where you die just by getting too close to an enemy.
Yeah, there's that.
I'm looking at you, Ninja Turtles game. For the Nintendo. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I made it past the impossible second level, but there was nothing worth exploring after that. Especially if you had a character with a very short range weapon. It was almost impossible to hit someone without getting hit yourself. Oof. Nasty little thing.
Well, who has a long... Donatello has a staff.
And as soon as you lost Donatello or Leonardo, the game was... It doesn't matter who else you got. Just restart. You're not getting anywhere. Like, Raphael's size was so small, and you had to basically walk into an enemy to hit them as you got hit and turned. Maybe kind of a Zen sort of thing if you wanted to play like I'm just gonna, avoid all the enemies I can, stealthing over. But there were other issues.
What's the deal with Raphael's size? Like, isn't that kind of an inferior weapon? Like, shouldn't they all have basically swords?
Not really, because they have different styles. And if you look at the most recent one, Michelangelo's nunchucks aren't just nunchucks. He can convert them to the Kusarigama, the one where it cuts like a little blade coming out the one end and a much longer chain in the middle. So he's got a much more of a range sort of thing.
Well, I guess if he's got a chain between them and they're a bit longer, they might almost have the same reach as a staff, except you have to swing it in order to get it.
It was actually in the new series. I remember seeing one episode that really caught my attention was they're fighting the Krang, which are basically robots with brains that
robot brains.
But they're fighting robots, giant metallic alien robots, and sure, a sai will pierce the metal.
Okay.
The blade on the Kusarigama thing, can pierce the metal, or at least damage it enough after a number of hits. And of course, a katana will, because katanas will cut through anything. I mean, that's basically a trope in and of itself.
Yeah.
But Donatello has a wooden staff. What is he doing against them? The answer is not a lot. So he gets upset and he goes to Master Splinter and I need a new weapon. This thing is horrible. Mm-hmm. And Master Splinter says, okay. And Donatello's all ready to come up with a decent argument, but he's like, what? Why are you going so quickly? And Splinter says, well, the art of ninjutsu is the art of adaptation. If what you're using doesn't work, adapt and find something that will. And that blew... I don't care what the hell the rest of the episode was there. He came up with a robot turtle he could use from a remote controlled distance sort of thing.
Oh, sweet.
Not too shabby, I'll admit, out of some guy who works out of the sewer system. But that one point just, it's like, oh, the master, knows it's adaptation. That's what you do. And it's like, this Splinter truly is a master, and he teaches me lessons just watching it. This is supposed to be a kid's show, man.
Although, if you're fighting, like, metal robots or whatever, don't you want, like, armor-piercing bullets, basically?
That part wasn't covered as to why they can't use guns.
The Ninja Turtles don't use guns.
I think that might be because they just can't afford the ammunition.
True. Yeah, they're very poor. They're teenagers.
They're teenagers without a job. I don't think they've got the legal identification.
Homeless.
Technically, they're homeless. There's a lot of obstacles to getting a well-paid job for them. Mm-hmm. Also, I don't think if you qualify as being like alive under the governmental system, they won't let you have bullets because registrations and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not too certain as to what the fictional registration requirements are in the Ninja Turtles universe, but I imagine there's something close to regular world America, so you can't just come in and buy bullets anywhere, especially for the good high caliber, like metal piercing stuff.
Armor-piercing bullets.
You're going to need some registration. You're going to need proof, and at least identification.
I think at gun shows you can buy bullets for like
up to certain amounts.
Yeah, like just your handguns and your rifles and your sporting guns, basically. Yeah. If
they were attacking deer all the time, it would maybe not be such a problem.
Well, that might be an interesting episode, if like zombie robot deer or something.
No. It'd be clone deer sort of thing.
Deer.
Like the guy's able to come up with clones, but he can't work out like the higher brain functions of humanity. So instead, he just clones a bunch of deer and puts in like aggressiveness for them, and so it's like a bunch of aggressive deer going through downtown New York.
Yeah.
Because if you're an urban person listening to us right now, I got to tell you, you probably do not know just how much damage a deer standing in the middle of the road will do to your car. A deer will mess up your car really bad at even slow speeds. It will just absolutely just ruin the front end, destroy your windshield.
So I'd like to see that game, like The Revenge of Deer Hunter or something like that, or Ninja Turtles Deer Hunter.
Well, I don't know. You could effectively take one of those Deer Hunter games and cross-combine that with like a Grand Theft Auto. You've got to try and destroy as many deer as possible on there because they're aggressive deer. And
technically, you can shoot civilians, but they don't give you any points, and the police come after you.
Well, that's the thing. It'd be kind of like a zombie outbreak sort of style, where these deer just keep spawning out, and you gotta whittle them down. You gotta protect the other citizens. So there you are, you get yourself with an 18-wheeler. You're just mowing down the deer, just saving the people. This is a horrible game, but I would love to see the gameplay stuff for it.
How did we get onto that? Oh, Ninja Turtles. Oh, but what if Donatello had like the pole arms with the back to corbin?
Oh yes, the 17 different styled French named weaponry that Gary Gygax loved beyond proper reason.
Yeah, or the crow's beak, I guess would be the English version.
There was all sorts of stuff. I can get out the book and we can read off the 17 different types because they had an illustrated guide to the difference of them. Which is really weird because I would have condensed it down to maybe 2 different weapons and given them all as different names for them include.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't the one designing a game. I wasn't the one that changed tabletop gaming history. So who am I to say, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of that one in particular because it's got a very heavy iron spike at the end, basically. So you spike it into the.
And that's where I would have thought Donatello was going to go with it. Just find some sort of adaptable end sort of thing. Like he wants like a piercing hook so he can grab and pull them. Yeah. So he winds up with a nice little half dozen different things on his belt he can wear. I mean, this stuff is CGI animated. All you have to do is come up with the head thing once and put it on there. You don't have to draw it properly every time, hand draw an animation of a classic style. It's a lot easier that way. So, I would have thought he would have gone that way, but no, in the end he finds out that turns out a non-conductive weapon has its advantages too.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
So, he decides to keep with that in the end, but that kind of blew my mind. It's the Master has real lessons that I mean, I would like to see a compilation on YouTube of just the wonderful lessons the new Master Splinter teaches his students. The first rule of ninjutsu is to do no harm. Unless you have been instructed to do a lot of harm, and then do harm everywhere. It's whoa.
Well, and of course, the whole cartoon trope of if you fight robots or zombies or Nazis, you can kill as many as you want.
Although they do have a habit of not hurting the brain Krang with inside.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that they're just, don't want to see what's inside of a living brain alien.
Yeah, I guess that might not pass on, as a G-rated. Well, Ninja Turtles can't possibly be rated G.
I think it's a PG-13 type thing.
Might be PG.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, Donatello. I mean, he's got he can build like a functional robotic automaton that can walk out of sewer components. He's Tony Stark painted green.
True. Yeah.
So I would have assumed he would have just gone with some sort of like energy blade.
Like a taser, like.
I don't know. I'm just picturing something kind of like a lightsaber sort of thing.
Do you think a lightsaber would be within the realm of possibility? I mean, it is a cartoon, so whatever.
I would have had him not do the full lightsaber type thing. Maybe just like an energy-based tip, so that when he strikes with a thing, he can like actually punish the metal thing instead of just having the wood staff bounce off.
Imagine just a magnet on the end is all you needed. Just like that's
completely messes with their software, and that's all he ever needed. That's all they all never needed to do. They had so much trouble all this time, and all he needs to do is just fling around some 99-cent fridge magnets.
Yeah.
Boy, that would be a brilliant, wonderful little scene. And then, of course, the Krang realize their flaw. They update the system, and then that doesn't work anymore. But that would have been for a decent, fun episode.
Well, their navigation systems might be like a little bit less effective if they're like, okay, we'll put this magnetic shielding on, but that'll also prevent us from...
Well, that's the thing. You could make it work like sometimes they'll disguise themselves as people. But maybe it doesn't work with the armor, reinforcement and all that, and so they can either be in this wonderful magnet immune thing, or they can, walk amongst humanity disguised.
And that's how you could find them. You could just
which
carry
is
a
the
magnet
guy
around
that's
with you.
Purposefully avoiding, the little tourist traps with all their little fridge magnets.
Hey, if you brought like a super powerful magnet into like one of those the scanners in the airport, would that mess it up? Would that, or would it just be a bright light?
That would be the start of a lot of problems, we'll say.
Just just out of a stereo speaker or something like that. Just a big
well, the
magnet.
proper expensive ones, like the $2-3 grand ones.
The ones that are really like powerful too.
I don't think they have much more than about a 5-foot significant magnetic capacity.
Yeah, I guess so.
So if they were trying to scan it, with a little metal scanner,
it's like the scanner sticks to it. It's like
you'd probably cause a little bit of damage, and you are randomly selected for advanced screening processes.
Okay, so I won't do that. If you're listening, all of the airport agencies in the world, I'm not going to do that.
I don't believe a lot of people do that. They do recommend that you check that in properly and not put it in your overhead compartment. Although the way some of the companies treat their baggage that goes underneath has a lot to be desired, I can understand why you'd want to keep it with you.
I wonder too, like if you had a really powerful magnet in your checked baggage, would it, and the next person had just a camcorder in there, would your magnet break their camcorder?
Only if it's active at the time. I believe powered down electronics are effectively immune to that.
Okay.
Make sure it is properly powered down and not just turned off sort of thing where it's just waiting on standby.
Yeah, but if it's in your luggage, most people don't leave it on. Even if they did, the battery might drain.
That said, I would imagine there being some interesting problems making it through the X-ray scanner.
Yeah.
You're setting off a couple of alarms.
I guess so.
Let's just say there's a rubber nitrile glove in your future.
So can you not bring those really super powerful magnets?
I'd have to check. I don't think you are allowed.
Huh. I wonder if you try and mail them, if FedEx has to put like a little warning label, like extremely magnetic or something.
I think there's a thing for that. Now, and see, that's the thing between the games how I play them and the real life. Mm-hmm. Is I'm allowed to make all these fun mistakes because I can retry it all over again. Mm-hmm. You do not want to accidentally just give a random try, like, I'm going to go on a short flight. It's, just a half-hour thing, but I'm going to take this powerful magnet with me. What's going to happen? No, it's probably best to phone your local airport in advance if you can't find anything about that and ask, like, I have something that has magnetic capabilities with it. What's the problem with carrying that? Which system am I best going for?
Yeah.
Just so that way you don't mess with a lot of people and cause a lot of problems. Because... then you get put on a list for the rest of your life, apparently. And it's rather hard to get. I believe what I remember hearing was in the last 5 years, only one person's got their name taken off a Do Not Fly list in North America.
Okay. Well, if our listeners, if any of you are on the Do Not Fly list, we'd love to hear about it. You can send us email.
But that's the advantage of being on the internet. You don't have to fly over to Victoria to catch us and listen to us. We broadcast it on the internet.
That's right. Send us email, thesimulationist@gmail.com. You can tweet at me on Twitter at spaceboot1. Spaceboot numeral 1 is my Twitter tweet. And we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/thesimulationist. That's facebook.com/thesimulationist, and you can type in comments and reviews and things like that. iTunes reviews, we always love that. You could
even just do a quick little link sort of thing, like if you know the page that says, hey, don't bring anything magnetic on the plane anywhere, send that stuff through the mail. Yeah, send that to us, man.
If you found something like that, we'd love to see that and read it.
It means we're much more knowledgeable about that, and if the situation ever comes up again, we can say, no, I know for a fact, don't bring your magnetic stuff on there.
Right. And what else? You can comment on our YouTube page too, because these all go up on YouTube as well. And you can comment on the blog page. Whichever way you like, we are listening. We are awaiting your comments.
We are attuned to your thought waves, but only if you actually type them out for us.
Yeah, exactly. And spread the word, please. If you enjoyed this podcast, tell a friend.
Tell an enemy if you think they still dig it. I mean, come on.
Go to your local gaming shop, support them, and while you're there, maybe put in a good word for us. See if
there's any leftover free RPG Day products.
That
sign up
too.
For yourself, eh?
Yeah. That's the social media stuff. So
final verdict on that? I think ultimately, especially for the single player stuff, there's no wrong way to play the game as long as you're enjoying yourself. For me particular, with the Marvel game I was playing, there was only the first chapter released. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't a huge amount of content to work through. So after a couple times running yourself through the same thing over and over again, it actually is a decent thing to try and find a new way to enjoy it.
Yep.
When it comes to multiplayer stuff, I think it is good to prepare and forewarn. Like I said, for the one Grim Reaper character I had, the Dungeon Master, he was not expecting me to actually write out so much stuff and spend paper after paper of writing this stuff down. Mm-hmm. That said, I still remember much more about the campaign than I did, for many others I've been in. So there's an extra bonus on that. But if you're going to be that attentive to detail, run it through the DM, run it through the other players you're going to be with, because no one wants you to wind up bogging the game down until it's too slow and not fun for them.
Yeah, that's true. And it's sort of up to the DM, too, to manage time management and decide.
But if you ask that, okay, now what did I determine? Like, how far away is he from me and all this sort of thing? Him just coming up with the answers is going to slow it down. Your combat turn or any move they make winds up taking twice as long as would otherwise be. Make sure the other players are okay with it. Otherwise, take some time off with the DM and just, say, okay, how can we work this out quickest so that way, I get my character's, needs fulfilled. And yet we're still having a decent pace.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of the arguments for having a grid in miniatures, even though miniatures can be like pennies or something like that. If you have a grid out there, there's less opportunity for ambiguity, and you know exactly how far away your character is from the bad guys.
I also find it really helps for more novice players who aren't exactly certain as to what's going on. A nice little visual representation really helps get them in, especially in this day and age of MMOs. Visual cues help immensely on that. So
and they don't have to be expensive miniatures or anything.
No,
like that.
One person gets to be the quarter, another person gets to be the dime, the nickel, and the penny sort of thing. You guys get to choose what it is. Oh no, wait, all the pennies are the moot goblins you're fighting. One person's gonna have to be the dime heads. One person's gonna have to be the dime tails. Yeah,
and of course, like what we do often is just because there are so many dice around, we often will use dice as representing.
My guy's dangerous and lethal. Whatever. He's the die 4. Yeah, he's like a caltrop, man.
And that's helpful too, because if you have 6 bad guys or whatever, you can have each 6 dice or 6 of the 6-siders, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 can be up on each one and have a different number
very nice
face
touch,
up.
yes.
So you can keep track of them a little bit that way, and you say, well, I attack number 3, and then it's right there.
Of course, mind you, there's also some things to be said about proper names, too. Like, there is a reason for Adam West Batman, all the henchmen have names. So that way no one can accuse Batman of fighting, like, infinite number of mook enemies. It's like, oh, didn't he already knock this guy unconscious? It's like, no. Properly coordinated. The Joker's 2 henchmen are Punch and Judy.
That's true. It is important for a DM, and that's why I say about the DM not joking around. It's important to be able to establish what's actually the case in the world.
You are reality. If reality is mucking around, you're not going to have quite a clear view as to what's going on.
If the DM's like, and 1 billion orcs come on the board, and I was just kidding.
They all jump out from behind the bush.
But, 1 billion is obviously a joke, but if you say something like, oh, there's 12 orcs, I was just kidding, there's only 6, then it's like, well...
Well, I don't know, you do it properly, the orcs come out and they've already got, like, a mirror image spell on there, so you think there's 15 orcs coming out, but there's really only 3 of them. Well, there's an orc spellcaster in the background who gave them the spell. He's hiding out to scare everyone away.
Yeah, interesting.
So, fun tactics there.
Yeah.
But, yes, until next week, though, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's all we have. That's all for this week. If you're listening in the future, we are back again. Yeah,
as soon as you find the next link,
as soon as you click on the next one.
Iteration 95.
You may even have a player that automatically plays the next podcast. So in that case,
what a world you're living in. Oh, my.
Yeah. But otherwise, if you're listening in the relatively short-term present, we hope that you'll be back again in another week. And we will definitely be back. So
we got no plans of quitting. You can't make us get off the internet.
Here we are. That's all for now. Oh, my name has been Josh Treleaven.
I've still been Ryan Kirkby.
And said money.